No one expected a single foreign tourist to wander into a centuries-old lantern shop in Kyoto's back alleys at nearly midnight, least of all the shop owner's sharp-tongued granddaughter. But that's exactly what happened when Ella Purnell arrived looking for a small piece of magic, never guessing she'd help keep a cherished tradition alive. The moon hung low over Kyoto's tiled rooftops, its pale light bathing the old streets in a gentle glow. Most of the bustling day tourists were gone, replaced by an occasional drifting lantern or a quiet passerby on a bicycle. Tucked away beyond a narrow alley sat Shimizu Lanterns, its weathered wooden sign squeaking in the nighttime breeze. Inside, an old-fashioned lamp flickered, hinting that someone was still awake despite the late hour. Through the shop's glass window, you could see rows of paper lanterns, some plain white, others swirling with ornate designs of phoenixes, cherry blossoms, or running water. A wooden counter stood near the entrance, and behind it lay a cramped workshop table littered with bamboo strips and brushes. Ella Purnell, dressed in a soft wool coat and warm scarf, approached, curiosity sparking in her eyes. She'd been in Kyoto for a short trip after wrapping a film project, and a friend had whispered rumors of an endangered lantern workshop deep in the old district. Ella adored handmade crafts, especially ones with a piece of cultural soul. She'd scoured the city's mainstream shops, but found nothing that resonated like the stories she'd heard. This tiny place, rumored to be run by an old man and his granddaughter, refusing to modernize or cheapen their craft. She spotted the faint open sign, though the lights inside were dim. The door squeaked as she entered, revealing a scene of quiet focus. An elderly artisan sat near the back, meticulously painting a koi fish onto a half-finished lantern, each brushstroke deliberate and tranquil. At the counter stood a young woman, Naoko, her arms folded, phone resting nearby. She looked up, startled. "We're about to close," Naoko said in a firm voice. Her tone suggested she didn't expect, nor want, any more customers tonight. The old artisan barely glanced up, too absorbed in his delicate brushwork. Ella tried her best polite Japanese. "Konbanwa, good evening. I read about your shop and was hoping to see your lanterns. They're said to be the finest in Kyoto." She offered a small bow, but Naoko's expression remained guarded. "We don't do late-night showings," Naoko replied in halting English, mixing it with curt Japanese. "We have no time for tourists who just want photos and haggling." The words stung, but Ella understood. She'd encountered many artisans around the world who'd been burned by pushy visitors or who faced financial struggles. She carefully replied, I'm so sorry for bothering you at this hour. I only have one more day here before I leave for Tokyo, and your lanterns were recommended. I truly admire traditional craftsmanship." A flicker of recognition touched Naoko's features, but she exhaled heavily. "I hear that a lot. People say they admire us, then either demand discounts or vanish when they realize these lanterns take actual artistry." She reached over, flipping off a section of the overhead lighting as if to signal they were done for the day. "Please come back tomorrow. We open at 10. Before Ella could respond, the old artisan coughed gently. He set down his brush and shuffled forward, leaning on a short cane. His weathered hands, spotted with age, held a half-dried lantern that glowed softly with a watercolor koi design. He sized Ella up with kind, if tired, eyes. Naoko turned to him, quietly insisting, "Grandfather, it's too late." "She can't just—" But he raised a hand. In a soft stream of Japanese, he murmured that perhaps a peek wouldn't hurt, especially since the sign still read open. Naoko fell silent, cheeks burning with either frustration or guilt. Ella, sensing the tension, started to apologize and back away. "I don't want to intrude. I promise I'll leave if it's any trouble." She clasped her coat as if ready to step out into the cold again. Just then, a muffled voice outside the shop caught Naoko's attention, a pair of late-night wanderers whispering in excitement. One said, "No, that's definitely Ella Purnell from those movies. You can see her face." The other peered through the window, phone in hand. Inside, Naoko frowned, confused by the sudden commotion. Ella let out a quiet sigh, looking simultaneously amused and embarrassed. She offered Naoko a small, apologetic smile. "I'm an actress, yes, but I'm here as a traveler who loves craftsmanship. I promise I'm not trying to exploit your work for a quick social media shot." The old artisan's eyes lit up at the mention of actress, Perhaps he'd heard of Western films through the rare television specials. He spoke gently to Naoko, who translated. He says if you truly want to see how it's made, he'll show you. But you must understand we can't finish a lantern instantly. It can take hours, days, depending on complexity. A wave of relief crossed Ella's face. She bowed deeply. Arigato gozaimasu. Thank you so much. I'll be respectful of your time. She stepped forward, approaching the table where half-assembled lantern frames lay scattered. Naoko hesitated, then clicked the overhead light back on. Tension still lingered in her posture, but she'd clearly been overruled by her grandfather. Fine, she said softly, guiding Ella to a stool near the workshop area. Sit. Just don't get your hopes up about buying something big tonight. We do custom pieces only with enough lead time. Ella perched on the wooden stool, carefully observing every detail. The artisan introduced himself as Shimizu Kenji, the third-generation owner of the shop. Naoko explained the legacy, how her great-grandfather started making lanterns for Kyoto's old festivals, how each pattern had meaning, cranes for longevity, koi fish for perseverance, blossoms for renewal. Over time, cheaper mass-produced lanterns had flooded tourist markets, leaving Shimizu Lanterns on financial thin ice. As Kenji dipped his brush in ink, he offered Ella a chance to hold a piece of thin washi paper. She felt its texture, marveling that something so delicate could stand firm once dried and lit from within. He demonstrated how they glue strips of bamboo to form the skeleton of the lantern, then gently layer the paper, smoothing out wrinkles. Even in his advanced age, Kenji's hands moved with a steadiness shaped by decades of practice. Naoko remained somewhat aloof, arms crossed, as if waiting for Ella to prove she wasn't just a celebrity stunt. But the more Ella asked about the dyeing traditions, the specific dyes used, or the meaning behind certain brushstrokes, the more Naoko's defensive edge softened. They chatted in a mix of English and Japanese, the language barrier bridged by mutual fascination. At one point, Ella asked, "What about those big festival lanterns with elaborate scenes? Do you still craft those?" Naoko sighed. "We used to, but we lost major clients. Temples and festival committees now often buy cheaper ones from factories. We can't compete on price." Ella frowned. "But quality like yours should be recognized. Could there be a local or international market for true handmade pieces?" Naoko shrugged. "We tried an online site, but it's tough. People want cheap shipping, instant turnaround." While they spoke, Kenji handed Ella a small brush and gently signaled for her to try painting a tiny flower on a spare scrap of paper. She inhaled deeply, carefully following the strokes he'd shown her. Her lines were shaky, but she gave it her all. Naoko, despite herself, let out an impressed murmur at Ella's sincerity. After some minutes of this careful practice, Ella said, "I'd love to buy one of your lanterns, any design you have ready. And, if you don't mind, I'd be honored to mention your shop to people who appreciate real craftsmanship." Naoko hesitated. "You're not going to put us on some tabloid site, are you?" Ella laughed softly. "No. I do have social media, but mostly fans who love art and travel. Maybe they'd come here, too." Kenji disappeared into the back for a moment, returning with a medium-sized lantern painted with subtle cloud motifs in pale blues and grays, a hint of sunrise pink creeping along the edges. Naoko explained that it symbolized the promise of hope after a storm, a personal design her grandfather rarely displayed for sale because it was dear to him. Ella's eyes lit up as soon as she saw it. "This is breathtaking," she whispered. Naoko gave a small nod. "He says it took days to get the shading right, and he was worried no one would appreciate how the color shifts when lit from inside." Ella's gaze stayed glued to the lantern. "I cherish it. Truly." Somewhere in the quiet street outside, a few onlookers still hovered, occasionally peeking in, murmuring about Ella Purnell and that little lantern shop. But Ella ignored the mild chatter, fully immersed in this discovery. She offered to pay the listed price, no haggling. Kenji gently placed the lantern into a protective cloth cover, smiling. As they finalized the purchase, Ella asked, "Could I take a photo? Just me and the lantern, or me with you both, if you're okay with it." Naoko exchanged glances with her grandfather, who seemed shy but nodded. They posed near the workshop table, the half-finished lanterns adding a cozy ambience. Ella snapped a couple of pictures, making sure to capture Kenji's gentle smile. Before leaving, Ella turned earnest. I have friends in the film world who love unique, authentic artistry. I can connect you with some who might be interested in commissioning special lanterns for sets or as gifts. Naoko blinked, overwhelmed by the possibility. She stammered a thank you, her earlier cynicism replaced by a glimmer of hope. They said their goodbyes, Ella bowing low in gratitude. Kenji returned the gesture, gratitude shining in his tired eyes. Naoko walked her to the door, shoulders more relaxed now. Thank you. Sorry for my rudeness. We've had so many disappointments. Ella gave a warm smile. I understand. I only hope this helps in some small way. Your lanterns deserve to light up more corners of the world. Stepping out into the cool Kyoto night, lantern carefully tucked under her arm, Ella felt a surge of inspiration. She posted a brief, heartfelt update to her social platforms, praising Shimizu Lanterns for their dedication. Within hours, fans from around the globe commented, asking for the address or if shipping was possible. Meanwhile, the next morning, a local Kyoto blogger who followed Ella's page wrote an article titled Midnight Lanterns, How an English Actress Discovered Kyoto's Best-Kept Secret. In the days that followed, the shop saw a modest but steady trickle of new visitors, some guided by Ella's mention, some by the local coverage. A small group of artisans proposed a collaboration, wanting to preserve traditional lantern making. Naoko, reinvigorated, arranged longer open hours on certain nights for workshops, letting visitors see Kenji's artistry up close. And while they didn't become millionaires overnight, Shimizu Lanterns found renewed energy to keep going. The phone rang with a Tokyo-based film prop coordinator asking if custom lanterns could be made for an upcoming shoot. A friend of Ella's followed up, requesting a special order for a charity auction. Naoko and Kenji realized that genuine appreciation still existed, people just needed to know they were here. Months later, the shop's interior got a minor facelift. Fresh tatami mats, reorganized shelves to display their most precious pieces. Kenji taught a handful of younger apprentices, ensuring the tradition wouldn't die out with him. And each evening, when they lit the lanterns for ambience, they recalled that one midnight visitor who bridged worlds with a quiet kindness. Ella, back in London or on set somewhere else, would light her precious sunrise-patterned lantern on her coffee table, remembering the hush of that Kyoto night. She'd smile, knowing that sometimes all it takes is one late-night knock on the door, and a genuine admiration for centuries-old craftsmanship to keep a beloved family legacy glowing against the shadows of modern times.